y'all. Hope you guys are doing well. I decided to film a video today about OCD and anxiety. I struggle with both. I have had OCD since I was probably 11, and I have some generalized anxiety, but a lot of my anxiety comes from my OCD. So I've gone through quite a bit of therapy, and so I thought, and I've just life experience. So I thought I would just share some stuff that has helped me that I've learned in therapy or just learned through experience, because therapy is expensive and not everybody can afford it. So I want to share some knowledge that I have about it. So I'm assuming if you are watching this video, I mean, maybe you're just watching for fun, I don't know, but I'm assuming you probably know something about OCD, but OCD is so much different than most people think that it is. It is extremely intense. It's literally like a bully inside your head that feeds off of the things that you love, that you value in life. So a lot of times it will target your family, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your just whatever is important to you, your kids, and it is it doesn't make sense. The things that it tells you are just so extreme that it, you know, in your logical side of your brain that it doesn't really make sense, but you can't help but believe it because it's so strong. For instance, like hitting a bump on the way home and being convinced that you just killed a child, or feeling like if you looked at a knife that you might pick it up and stab your husband, or thinking that if you don't wash your hands, you're going to give your entire family a disease and they're all going to die. Like, it's so extreme. And it gives you this complete panic in your body that if you don't do it, so it gives you the obsession, and then if you don't act on the compulsion, XYZ is going to happen. So if you don't wash your hands, your entire family is going to die and it's going to be your fault. Or if you don't turn off the stove, your house is going to burn down, and you're going to kill all your kids and you're going to go to jail. And it's just like, it's so extreme. And I mean, to the point where sometimes I'm even like embarrassed to tell my therapist this stuff. Like, one of my themes is, for some reason, throwing stuff in the garbage can. I think it started out with me kind of being obsessed with recycling because I feel like I needed to save the planet. And then I kind of stopped caring as much, and the theme still stuck. And it was almost like the more dumb it was, the more it would stick, because I was afraid to tell my therapist, like, I was stuck all day on a little piece of cotton from my rug that I threw in the garbage. Like, not my rug that I threw in my garbage, the piece of cotton that I threw in the garbage. Like, it will just stick on the dumbest things, and it almost sticks more, for me, this is me personally, the dumber it is, the dumber than I know that it is, because then it's like, you don't want to tell your therapist that's so embarrassing. Like, literally, I'll pick up a little thing off the carpet, throw it in the garbage, and for some reason that'll stick in my head. Like, you threw that away wrong. You threw that away weird. You did something weird when you threw that away. You looked in the wrong direction when you threw that away. You need to redo it. And it would just stick in my head the entire day, if not multiple days. And then the next day, something else would happen. Something else I threw away. And I've had all sorts of different themes, so that's just one example. But right now I struggle a lot with pure OCD, which is like basically all in your head. Like, I'm doing compulsions in my head. Well, I'm trying not to do compulsions, but it's like you need to think about this thought all day, and if I think about it the wrong way, like if I think about it and say I like looked up over here, I would have to think about it again because I looked in a weird direction. Or if I started thinking about it and my kids interrupted me, I would have to think about it again because I got interrupted. And it's just like a silly thought, but all day long I would be doing compulsions about this silly thought. It could literally be like a phrase my kids said. And if I thought about it wrong, if I got interrupted when I thought about it, if I mean, so many reasons why I would have to think about it again. And I would end up thinking about it all day to the point where I would give myself headaches because I couldn't stop. And so the thing, and I had this for quite a long time, but the thing that helped me the most with my pure OCD is my therapist said, think of it like a bee sting. You know, it stings you and then it leaves. And anything past the initial thought is a compulsion. So I realized I was doing compulsions all day. And so that really helped me because I was like, okay, you're going to be uncomfortable with OCD. It's just a given. Like, the feelings that it creates in your body are insane. Like, you literally feel like you are going to die and have the worst panic attack ever if you don't do the compulsions. Like, it is an intense feeling in your body. You are scared. So that's why people do the compulsions, is because they get this feeling that's just horrendous. But they teach you in therapy to sit with the uncomfortable of not doing a compulsion. And you realize that you can get through it. So they expose you and, you know, a little bit at a time, and you realize, oh, I got through that. So I would say just know that you're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to be uncomfortable thinking about the thought, and you're going to be uncomfortable not thinking about the thought. So just realize that, because the bee sting analogy really helped me, because I'm like, okay, like, I can't think about that thought. Like, no matter what it was, I'm not allowed to think about it. But I'm still sitting with a little bit of like uncomfortable, like, that thought, like, I need to think about it. It's sitting there. What was that thought? And because I'm not thinking about it, sometimes I forget. I'm like, what was that? Oh my gosh, what was that was bothering me? And I didn't think about it. So I'm still uncomfortable, but I'm way less uncomfortable than doing compulsions all day. So that one really, really helped me to understand that I was doing compulsions. And when I stopped doing that, my life got so much better, tremendously better. Some of you probably just have anxiety, so I'm going to share some things. I told my therapist at one point, I was like, I get so anxious when I go out, like, because I have to be present in the store, and I'm always so caught up in my thoughts, like, what if I'm checking out, and I all of a sudden just blank out, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do right now? I don't even know. I can't stop thinking about this thought. Like, I just had this fear of, like, or checking out, you know, you're checking out at Walmart, and like all of a sudden, what if I blank out and I forget what I've rang up and what I still need to ring up, and like just these fears that I had. And so my therapist gave me this advice when I go out, to notice 5 small things. 4 things that you can touch, so like texture. 3 things that you can hear in the background, and this is to help me stay present when I go out and not be so caught up in my thoughts. 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. So she said maybe putting bubble gum in your mouth, mints, something to help you focus on that. And another thing that has been really helpful, and that's more for, I don't know, I think that helps with OCD and anxiety, because OCD, for me at least, OCD, I don't feel present. I have a hard time focusing. I'm so caught up in the thoughts. They're screaming at me. And it almost feels like what I can imagine schizophrenia feeling like, just these loud thoughts. Although I'm not hearing like voices or anything like that. It's just like loud thoughts that are hard to ignore. I did wonder if I was schizophrenic at one point, but I'm not. It's just OCD, but it's intense, and people just do not realize how intense it is. In fact, the World Health Organization lists it as one of the top 10 most debilitating diseases, and I absolutely agree. I mean, a lot of people just think it's, oh, you wash your hands a lot, or you keep your house really clean, or you're really organized. No. It is like, you feel like you're gonna die, you feel like you're gonna kill people, you feel, if you don't do these things that it's telling you to do, if you don't check your stove a million times, if you don't, and it can be anything. it can be the weirdest things. Like, everybody's is so different. And so it just can be anything that your mind obsesses over and can't stop. I mean, there were days where I was repeating a phrase so many times in my head that I was like, I'm gonna die. Like, I want to die. I can't stop thinking about this. And it really is you have to physically stop yourself. You have to do something different because your brain doesn't know how to stop. It's broken. It really is. They compare it to like a manual versus an automatic transmission. You have to actually stop your brain. And you do that by accepting. So that's another thing that I was going to say. Accepting the possibility that might happen. Because the OCD brain likes to feed off uncertainty. What if this happens? Well, maybe it will. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. And accept the possibility that it might. And it's really uncomfortable to sit with. It's really uncomfortable to sit with that you might stab your husband. Even though you never would, because it's things that you are so terrified of doing that that's what it's feeding off of. So it's interesting because it's like these people, me, all of us with OCD have these things that are in our brain like, what if you hurt your child? What if all these things? And it's literally our worst fears. So why would we ever do it? And that's the thing, is none of us are ever going to do it because we don't want to. We're so scared of it. But it feeds off of that. It feeds off of your fear. And so that's why you have to kind of give it up and say, you know what? Maybe I will kill my kids. Who knows? I don't know. It's a possibility. And sitting with the uncertainty. My therapist had me make a vision board at one point that really helped me. And it's not your typical vision board. It's a vision board of all the things that I'm scared of and me saying I want them to happen. So I'm going to give an example. One of mine was, I want to be imperfect because I have this fear of not being perfect or whatever. And it's a way that you accept it and stop fighting it, because the OCD starts to give up the less that you fight with it. If you just start agreeing with it, it starts to give up. And it may come up with something else. Backdoor Spike, it'll probably come up with a new theme, and you just do the same thing. Accept it. Maybe I did hit a child in the road. Oh well, I might have. Maybe. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Another thing I wrote on my board was, I want to make mistakes. I want to not be able to function. Because these were all fears of mine, getting stuck in my head all day that like I couldn't even think. I went years with like getting out a paper that my kids had from school and just staring at it and not even be able to read it because I couldn't stop doing a mental compulsion in my head. So I was never present. Like going to a concert at their school and just staring and just not even be able to look at them or think about it because my mind was so focused on my thoughts. And so I have this huge fear of not being present, not being here, like being stuck in my head. So one of my other things I wrote was, I don't want to be present. I hope I'm not present. I hope I can't function. Another one I have is this fear of lying. Like I have an obsession of not being able to lie, to the point where I'm like explaining things like so clearly to my kids that I'm like, oh, I didn't explain that perfectly. I'm a bad mom. I'm this, I'm whatever. So I put, I want to be a liar. So writing down these things, it's like throwing OCD on its head. It's like, you just stop caring. And when you stop caring, the OCD starts to fade. And you will still feel uncomfortable. I will just say, it's not like it just goes away. You are sitting with the uncomfortable of not doing compulsions and accepting these thoughts. So say your compulsion is to go wash your hands when you get home from the grocery store. You need to expose yourself and not do it. And you start out a little bit at a time, and then you get more and more. You start out with your things that you're not as scared of and move up to your things that you're scared of, or that you're the most scared of. Because you have to kind of teach yourself. If you start out with the highest one, it's going to freak you out. You're never going to want to do it again. So maybe start out with, I'm going to go 30 minutes without washing my hands. And you have to sit there with the uncomfortable feeling of feeling like you're going to die not doing this. And you will feel like you're crawling in your skin. Trust me, I know. There's many times where I give myself cold chills because I am just so uncomfortable. I feel like I'm crawling in my skin, not doing a compulsion. But what you need to do during this time is not just sit there and think about it. Go refocus on a task, something you enjoy, something that is fun for you, maybe knitting, maybe reading a book, whatever it is, and really focus on that task. Really, really be present and focus on that. And eventually those feelings of not doing the compulsion will start to fade. And you just do that over and over and over and over. Maybe the next time you say, okay, I'm gonna go an hour without washing my hands. Same thing, sit there with the uncomfortable. You will feel like you're gonna die. Trust me, you will. But you're rewiring your brain. You're teaching your brain, this isn't important. Maybe I will get a disease, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll kill my whole family, maybe I won't. Without washing my hands, maybe they are gonna all get sick and die and it's gonna be my fault. Maybe not. But you're sitting with that and you're refocusing and you're just sitting with the uncomfortable. So acceptance is one of the major things with OCD. Accept the possibility that those things might happen. Let's see, what else do I have? I don't want to make these videos super long because I have a lot of information, but I'll share maybe one more thing. One other thing that helps you not doing, it's helped me, and my therapist even told me that this was a good idea, is to focus on what's more important in a moment. So I just use the washing your hand one because I don't know, that's a easy one for me to think of. But there was one time I was out at like school lunch with my kids, summer lunch, and I had this thought just raging in my head, and my mind just wants to think about it. And then I'm not present, I'm not in the moment or anything. And this is all day for me. This is all day for me that I'm having to ignore these thoughts. But I remember this one time I was just like, okay, this is not important. What's important is that I get my kids their lunch, we sit down, we do what needs to be done. And it helped pull me out of the moment, out of my thoughts, not out of the moment, but out of my thoughts. Because that wasn't what was important. What was important is that I get my kids their food, we go sit down, and whatever. So what is most important in this moment? If you are at work, your work is more important. These thoughts aren't important. They're not important. Your work is important. There was a time in life where I even would put off my thoughts, and so this may work for you, where I would just say, okay, this thing is bothering me. I don't have time to think about it right now, so I will think about it later tonight. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to, for 20 minutes or whatever, I'm just going to sit down at night and I'm going to write in my journal all the thoughts that bothered me, and I'm going to sort it out at the end of the night. And then when it came to the end of the night, I would read my scriptures and do other things, and I wouldn't actually think about those thoughts. So I wasn't actually doing compulsions, because you don't want to actually think about the thoughts later if you know they're OCD, because that's a compulsion. But you can trick your brain into not being freaked out because you're going to think about it later, right? So you know what? I have to do my job right now. I can think about this at 9 o'clock at night when I'm all alone and I have time to actually think about what this thought is. And so it really helped me manage my day and get the things done that I needed to, because if the thought came, it was like, oh, I'll just think about it later. We're setting it aside and I'm going to think about it later. I can't do that anymore. Now my OCD is like, no, no, no. You'll be a liar if you don't think about it now, because you know you're not going to think about it later. So that worked for me for like a whole year, but it doesn't work for me anymore. But it may work for you. Okay, well, I'm going to end this because there are many more videos, and I do not want to make this longer than 20 minutes, but just know that there is so much help out there for OCD. There's a lot of help. And yeah, you can overcome this. It's never going to not be there. You will always have OCD, and that's one thing I had to accept. I hoped it would just go away. You're always going to have it, but there are so many tools to deal with it well and live a really good life. But just like other diseases, we can't just magically make them go away. So accept that you will have this, and many people have it. A lot of us have it and are able to function. And there are days where you're not going to feel like you're functioning well, and that's okay. There are many days where I'm just like, oh, I totally failed today. Like, today was a waste. I totally did compulsions. You know, that's okay. It's okay. Don't be hard on yourself. It is so easy to be hard on yourself. But OCD is a really, really, really intense mental illness. And so just give yourself grace. It's okay. Just do your best, and just know that there's so much help. And I will continue to make videos of stuff that I've learned that have helped me. But do your best today to not do compulsions, because your brain will eventually start to rewire itself the less compulsions that you do. So even if you can just today start very small. I'm going to go 5 minutes without thinking about this thing. I'm going to go 5 minutes without washing my hands. I'm going to go 5 minutes without doing this. Start small and sit with the uncomfortable feeling of not doing it. So I hope you guys have a good day, and I'll do much more of these videos. So bye.